Hey lads, it's me. So I haven't done an update for a little while. I have been super busy and I really wanted to be committed to doing this channel and trying to update it regularly. But I've just been super swamped with work and personal projects, and just trying to find the time to make a video is really frustrating. Especially because a lot of the time when I come home, I'm tired and I'm sweaty and I just want to have a shower and go to bed. My only kind of interesting thing that's really happened over the last couple of weeks is I went to my first ever murder mystery. Those of you who have me on the old Instagrams and the old Snapchats would have seen that I was experimenting with drag. This is something I've actually been thinking about experimenting with for a while, but the opportunity to play Prince Charming at a fairy tale themed murder mystery kind of got the ball rolling and made me go, yeah, I should do this. Conversation about drag is for another day, my friends. I was invited there by my lovely friend Shonid, who is known on the old Facebooks and the old Instagrams as Polka Dots and Video Games. I'll put a link to her thing below. She does a lot of independent kind of reviews of a lot of indie games as well as mainstream games. She kind of talks about it from a very different perspective, all to do with inclusiveness and mental health and things like that, which I think is really cool. So I'll put a link there. Please check her out if you get a chance. I didn't know anyone there. I was kind of like Shona's plus one, and she was Snow White and I was Prince Charming. We had a very weird relationship, God. A lot of people thought I did it, which I can kind of understand, because the entire time the prince was really not consistent and didn't seem to know anything that was going on. I did get a really good plot twist though. I was a frog. That was the twist. I was a frog who, decided to take advantage of the fact that Prince Charming was missing and got a spell to turn into him. Never found the body of Prince Charming. None of us ever found out what happened to Prince Charming. Who knows how that's gonna end. Basically, yeah, everybody thought it was me. But it actually turned out it was Rumpelstiltskin. Which, to be honest, we should have seen coming. And me and all those other idiots that didn't vote for Rumpelstiltskin, which was basically all of us, were fools. I actually think I got the most votes, if I remember correctly, for having done it. And I'm just saying those people were fools because it was Rumpelstiltskin. I was also a fool. I voted for the witch that ate or tried to eat Hansel and Gretel, because she just seemed really suspicious. Everything she said was really vague, and I was like, that seems like something a murderer would do. Not that I met many murderers to know that that's what they would do, but it seemed that way. The thing was, at the end of this event, the host and hostess were kind of summing up who did it, and thank you for coming, and we had a great time, blah, blah. That sounded so dismissive, but it really was a good time. But we were summarising, and then the guy who was the host kind of was giving a final kind of speech about thank you to the hostess. Their names were Rob and Megan, so he was kind of just thanking Megan and sort of saying she did such a wonderful job with this, and we've answered so many questions tonight, but there's one question that we haven't had the answer to. He got down on one knee and proposed to her. I have never seen a real life proposal before. This was a huge deal for me because I've never seen a proposal before, and it really excited me, to actually get to see it. It was just so nice to see these two people who clearly just absolutely adore each other. I'd never met them. That was the other thing. I'd never met them, and I was like, I'm so glad I get to share this special moment with you. I'm a complete stranger in your house, but I get to be part of one of the most important memories the two of you are going to share in your home, and one of the most important events in your journey as a couple was shared by me, an utter stranger who you'd never met before that event. I really liked Megan and Rob. They were so nice, and I really hope the next time they have a murder mystery they wouldn't mind having me back. I certainly am really glad I got to see this really significant part of their life. But the reason why it was such a big deal for me was obviously because I'd never really seen a real life proposal. You see it all the time in movies and TV shows. You see it on Facebook, when the girls do this with their hands in the photographs to show that they're engaged. We know, you said you're engaged. Don't know why you have to go over the top with showing off the ring. Calm down. We all get one eventually. I won't, because no one will ever love me enough to ask, and that's just the truth. Just because I got to witness that, I'm so happy I got to witness it. But it was kind of weird timing because recently I've been doing a lot of thinking about relationships. My last two videos were pretty kind of serious, talking about a very serious long-term relationship I was in, and the fact that it basically kind of ruined me afterwards. because I said in the first video that I was kind of thinking like maybe I'm ready to date again, and I recently had to kind of go back and forth on that because I don't really know if I am. It's still just kind of a maybe. For starters, a lot of guys I meet are really into football. I do not like football. As general rule of thumb, none of my boyfriends have ever liked football because I don't like it, and I, no matter how much I love you, will never love you enough to actually sit down and watch a game. I'm sorry. It's just not going to happen. It got me thinking kind of about love and relationships, and I was actually chilling with my friend Marnie at the weekend there. Marnie and I used to work together when we both worked at the cinema, and we try and get together with one of our other friends every so often and just have a coffee and have a catch up because we all kind of left around about the same time. And it's just our way of kind of keeping in touch, letting each other know what's going on. And we were talking about kind of relationships, and I kind of mentioned to her about how I had a bit of communication with an ex-boyfriend that I probably should not have had. But it felt good to kind of actually speak to her about it and tell her about it, and she kind of was giving me like, not even really her perspective on it, but she was supportive just in the fact that she listened, which was great. But we ended up having this conversation, and she said something that like really struck me. I have always hated, now I am a massive RuPaul fan, right? I fucking live for RuPaul's Drag Race. Like, it's the best show ever. But he has that phrase, and it's a phrase I hear a lot in kind of other TV shows I've watched and like books I read about how, you know, you can never love someone until you can love yourself. And I've got to be honest, I think that phrase is utter bullshit. Sorry, RuPaul, I don't mean any disrespect, but it's utter bullshit. And the reason it's utter bullshit is purely because loving yourself is such a difficult thing. Loving yourself for some people is a hard thing. Like for me personally, I have a lot of struggles with a lot of very personal things that I don't want to really go into, but the act of actually loving myself and being kind to myself, it is really hard. I have done some incredibly horrible, unkind things to myself because I don't believe for a second I deserve to feel any kind of love or happiness. It's very difficult for me to love myself. So when people kind of use that phrase, because some of my friends who think they're being supportive have used that phrase when I've been going through a hard time, you know, when I've tried to express my feelings of self-doubt and self-hatred and self-loathing, have pulled out that little phrase and think that that will make everything better. Like, pal, you're not really helping me. I'm never going to love myself. But Marnie actually said something that really struck me. It's a better way of phrasing it, which I think is the way we should maybe start talking about it. What she said was, you cannot commit to someone until you can commit to yourself. Love and commitment are two completely different things. Love is an emotion, commitment's an act. You know, like, people fall in love all the time but can't commit. And I'm not just talking about like people who cheat. Like, there are people who flake out on relationships all the time, or, you know, like, I know people that have been dating for years and years and years and years but have like never gone through the motions of doing things like moving in or whatever because they're in love, but they're too afraid to commit to actually doing something to make the relationship move forward. That's also a level of commitment in a relationship that a lot of people are really scared of doing. You know, there's a lot of people who are willing to commit to another human being but truthfully don't love them, which for me is just as bad, you know? Like, there's no point in committing to someone you don't love. It's just a complete waste of your time and a complete waste of theirs. You know, committing to yourself is not the same as self-love. Self-love is a really difficult thing to do. It is very hard to take care of yourself, especially when you feel that level of self-hatred for yourself. Man, I'm using the word self a lot. Self-absorbed asshole I am, eh? Committing, though, is an act. Like, when you commit to regularly going for a walk just to keep yourself active, that's an act of committing to yourself. That's an act of looking after yourself. When you look at your diet and you go, you know what, maybe I should cut back on this, maybe I should replace some of these snacks with something healthier, things like that. That's all commitment to yourself and looking after yourself. If you have an illness, committing to going to things like doctor's appointments, going to regular physical therapy or mental health therapy, anything like that, that's all a commitment to yourself to look after yourself. And it's not the same as self-love. It's not. These are two different things. Some things that go hand in hand. I know a lot of people who, when they started to learn to take care of themselves better, like grew to love themselves because they were taking care of themselves. For me, I kind of hope that happens. I hope eventually I'll reach a point where I'll be able to look at myself and go, I like who I am as a person. Most of the time, I would say I'm okay with who I am as a person. A lot of the time I'm not. My friend Marnie said to me just really struck me, because she's so right. Like, you really cannot commit to another human being until you can commit to yourself. And I think that's maybe what I have to do, is just really focus right now on the commitments I've made to myself. The biggest one actually being like my health right now. My other kind of big thing that I'm trying to commit to right now is the book I'm writing. I'm now 12 chapters in. I think on the last update I was 10. So I'm at 12 in, and I am really proud of myself for that. It is so hard to write a book. Like, it's so hard. But I am so unbelievably proud of myself for getting that far. I've noticed a few kind of loopholes and plot holes and doodads and thingamabobs here and there, but they'll all get fixed. And that's the thing I have to keep telling myself, is if you don't know where the story's going, just keep writing. You can eventually piece it all together, even if it's really badly strung together at first. You'll find a way to fix it. Because I think that's the problem, is I have a tendency to overthink the things I'm writing. I put way too much thought into the thing I'm writing, but that doesn't mean that there's not still problems, you know, things that kind of are clashing, and there's certain events that I'm like, I need these all to join up, but I have no in-between events to join them up, and it's like, just badly write shitty things to join them all up, and then you can fix the shitty ones once all the big ones are joined up, that sort of thing. So that's my kind of biggest commitment right now, is to myself, to write this book, because I told myself a long time ago I was going to do it. And I'm going to do it. I actually have a week booked off, I think in about a week's time off work, and I'm going to use that time to just write solid. I think I'm pretty much going to try and commit to writing every single day. I'm thinking about maybe going to York for a couple of days actually. I think it might be nice to go to York and just chill in a nice hotel, go out and see a couple of the museums and things, and then just spend the evening in my hotel writing. I'm committed now to trying to write this book. I just feel like the story I have to tell is really kind of, well, it's very me, the story. Like, a few friends that have read it have kind of said, like, everything about it is very me. It's an absolute mess and jumble of all the things I love, and that's kind of how I want it to be, but a mess and a jumble that will eventually make sense, I promise. Anyway, that's kind of all I really had to say. Like and subscribe and all that nonsense. I promise I'm going to try and do a regular video again next week. Oh, before I forget, this is my new tattoo. This is Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. For those of you who have never seen Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, you absolutely should. It's hilarious. And for those of you who have never read Hamlet, I'm sorry, your life's empty.